All right, so we are ready for the February Finance Committee meeting. Do we have any public comment? Maybe we need to do more to advertise the show, so anyway, all right, the first item on our agenda is an action item for the purchasing agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the purchasing agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Any questions about the purchasing agenda? Is there anything that we should know?
Again, most of what's on there is typical of what we do this time of year. There's obviously increased purchasing related to our bonds and our sinking fund projects, which I think Ken will talk a little bit about later.
There are a couple things on here. There's a architecture contract and a construction manager contract for JRPS University. That is, we have a $4 million budget under the bond, and that is to air condition the building and do a certain level of upgrade to make it fit better as our professional development center. So air conditioning is the big thing. Without it, it really limits our use and availability of the building. We like to be able to do PD during the summer, and it's really not functional. So that's what that's for. Also, we have a construction manager for Ridgemore, and the first bid set for long lead items for Ridgemore is in here.
I was curious about the Ridgemore project and that the amount of the on-site management, is that fairly normal on that amount? It was like, I think like 94,000 or so, which is appeared to be almost half of the total project.
The triangle number is within a reasonable range. They do vary, and they look at the intensity of what they're going to have to do on the site. Ridgemore has a lot of little pieces, which takes a fair amount of management to do. And we're also trying to bid it in smaller packages for local vendors and contractors to be involved.
Okay.
But it's in a reasonable range.
I was kind of contrasting that with what you had listed as Buchanan's, I think it was between 4.5% for management, and just wondering what was involved, why the difference.
As the projects get bigger, the percentage should go down because there's certain base tasks that have to be done, and then there's some that are the amount of work. And as a rule of thumb, the percentage amount should be less on a bigger job.
And then my other question related to the transportation, the blanket, an additional $150,000. Is that just so that we can advance the money, or is that an amendment to our expenditure level?
Yeah, based on Dr. Flores, our expenditures to date, and I believe this $150,000 was embedded in our amendment. One is an increase in transportation costs. That's obviously our high school students that we provide bus tickets for transportation for them. So
this is just following the amendment process?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
going to cost us more than we
Okay.
anticipated. Yep.
Any other questions? So do y'all feel forward moving this to the full board?
I'm comfortable with that.
So, do we need a formal, is somebody, so we vote 3-0 to move it to the full board? Good, all right. Okay, so we'll move that on to the board. Our next agenda item is reports, January financial statements.
Yeah, I want to point your attention to the dashboard report that it should be the first statement you see, and I've mentioned before, and we have a couple new members here. met with Dr. Baker, and we made just a little adjustment to what you have here. You'll continue to see, as you do in this month's dashboard report, the middle column being the annual budget. Now, that does now reflect Amendment 1, so that is the amended budget for 2017. Of course, the far left column is the current fiscal year, and you see it reported revenues and expenditures as we reported internally, and then the right column is prior years, just for comparison purposes. So that's the operating statement as it stands year-to-date, any particular month, in this case through January, and I will tell you that we're tracking, at this point in time in our year, we're tracking appropriately to where we should be. Let me also remind you that these financial statements are essentially prepared on a cash basis. We make some adjustments at year-end for audited financial statements to put them on what's called a modified cash basis. So as we get dollars in and we spend dollars out, it hits these financial statements. So the timing's a little different than you might see in audited financial statements, so cash in, cash out financial statements. The section below the operating statement says balance sheet general fund, and there's some key metrics there, I think, as a finance committee and the board to keep you abreast of where we look in the balance sheet, the cash and investments in our general fund, and then the bonded debt, which is all debt that we've issued or that we've incurred by issuing bonds. It does include the $175 million I shouldn't say $175 million, 88 million, half the $175 million that we issued a year ago. Next month, it will reflect the refunding that we just did last week. Essentially what happens is the issue we refunded goes off our books, and the new bonds that we issued to refund it come back on our books. So there'll be a little bit of less overall debt next month to reflect that refunding. And then below the cash and debt, you'll see the general fund balance, which I know we're all interested in. And what I added for this month, that you didn't see before, is that middle column you see in bold projected, a fund balance of $12,093,607, and a percent of annual revenue is 8.87. That projected number is where we intend to be fund balance-wise at the end of our fiscal year, June 30th, 2017, presuming we track to our budget, okay? So if we have another budget amendment between now and the end of our fiscal year, we will certainly adjust that. But if we track according to what's now our amended budget, Amendment 1, we hope to be at a fund balance at the end of the year of almost 12.1 million, and that's 8.87% computed under the early warning computation. So it's essentially fund balance divided by unrestricted general fund revenue. And the early warning has a minimum of 5%. This board last year articulated their preference to be no lower than 6% to give us a little bit of leeway, if you will. And we're projecting now it'll be close to 9% if we track according to budget for the rest of the year, the next 5 months of this year. And then below that, you'll see the capital expenditures broken out between normal capital expenditures, which right now is mostly sinking fund dollars, the bond-related capital expenditures, and then again, I add in that middle column the line that says bond-related capital expenditures grand total. That's how much of the bond proceeds we spent since we got the dollars in-house about a year ago. Again, it's on a cash basis. I know this month, I believe, we bought a bunch of computers for our staff. That'll come through probably next month as we pay that. And then as we ramp up these other projects that some of which Ken just talked about, we have the Museum High School, Buchanan, City High School, and GRPS University. Start ramping those things up over the next 9 months, you'll see that number increase fairly rapidly as opposed to this first year as we were getting the bonds issued and then getting designers hired and that work of getting the final design done with the input of the community. So we'll see that rise significantly. And then the last section there is just to give you a kind of a sense, month to month, of where our enrollment stands compared to last year. This is not, the enrollment numbers are not determined the same way as we would for a count day. These numbers include our general and special ed students. They do not include our shared time folks, which is around 850. And it also doesn't include our early childhood special ed, which is another 500 or so students that come into our account on which we get paid. So this is just the end of the month. You know, it varies from month to month in terms of who's absent and who's not absent, but it's more there just to give you a sense where we stand year to year in our enrollment type thing. So this is the revised financial dashboard. I believe as a board member, this kind of gives you everything you need at a glimpse to better assess where we stand from a financial perspective with the district. And I think we'll go over this with the full board, the next board meeting, so they have a sense what that looks like also, so. And
So
then,
specifically, what we want the full board to be aware of consistently is the fund balance
Right.
figure. So that way, especially when we're figuring out
yeah,
new things. It is important that we recognize that this enrollment figure at the bottom is not the same as the count day number, if we ever get asked it. And then also, at the end of the meeting, we're going to look at, or at some point in the meeting, we're going to look at the bond,
Yeah.
the building.
Yep.
And so, again, this figure here should be fluctuating as we spend that money.
any other questions on the dashboard? And then, of course, we also include for those that really like financial statements, we include the details behind it, that I won't spend any time at these meetings, but you can certainly look at that. If you have questions later about any of that information, you feel free to contact me or Rhonda, so.
Okay?
Okay?
Thanks.
Warm, safe, and dry.
yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
First, I want to deviate and introduce Jim Teehan. Jim is he's been on 3 weeks now. Jim is our manager of design, construction, and renovation. So you'll see him at these meetings regularly. Warm, safe, and dry, we've really got 3 projects open. The Ottawa Hills Pool Air Handler Replacement. The city inspector is requiring 1 more exit sign, and then we'll be able to close that out. Franklin Campus Data Center Air Conditioning, we have some contingency money remaining, and working with Craig Garib, right now the air conditioning systems are fed by 2 separate generators. And we are looking into, can we repower those under 1 generator so there's only 1 point of failure? Right now, if either generator failed to fire, the system would be down irregardless. So can we do it, and can we do it within the contingency we have remaining? That's why that project is remaining open at this time. And then we talked about Oak Ridgemore, and that's a project for this summer that we have to have done to open school in September. Bond, the bond projects, let me go through, I want to give you a couple visuals. You may need to move back to see clearly. This is the latest rendering of Buchanan. And I do need to qualify this. We're still over budget on the design of Buchanan. We're meeting tomorrow to try and get that back to the final number. But the existing building is this portion, and we're keeping, the building went way down around here, but we're keeping some and renovating it. This would be new cafeteria. This is the classroom wing with the gym in the middle. This piece is 2 stories of classrooms. Existing classrooms retain here, media center is retained, and this is the office and entry, secure entry. My gut tells me that our biggest change, whatever we make, will affect the entryway, trying to stay away from doing anything to classrooms. I have another perspective I can show you. Oh, that's just the wrong one. That's the one we rejected. The end of the building would be, this would be looking at the front, there'd be a canopy, and then actually you go in the door and turn immediately to the right to the secure entry. Gives us a little more queuing for drop-off and really makes the entry flow a lot better. But again, this could change a fair amount.
Is this the view from Buchanan?
This is from Buchanan Street,
Okay.
looking directly west. So we're looking over the parking lot. What we don't see is to the left is the playground area. And I think we've shown some versions of this before. So I wanted to also show the floor plans for the museum school. Which I'm not sure that you've seen before. So, this is the museum. The building we bought is this piece here. The archive building is to the right. We have agreed that we want to maintain the existing look on the exterior. While it's not designated historical, it certainly has historical significance to the community, and it was the last project completed under Franklin Roosevelt's WPA. There's a plaque in the entry that says that. So the front entry will stay essentially the same. Where there's display areas, there's, I think, 5 of them. They will actually be converted on the south side to windows to look into the space. There's a window here, and then I believe this one, which is at a fire stairwell, may be changed to have a school sign in the window space. But the exterior will look essentially the same. The grand hall will stay essentially the same and open. Security will come in through here through the office. This is their laboratory space still being defined, kitchen and what they're calling a bistro and a demonstration kitchen here. A health office here. This would be whether a music room, performing room. It's multi-purpose. It also can be opened up so performance could be here with visual or seating out in the grand hall. This is the artifacts laboratory. It's got a main open area, which would be more classroom, a space to work on artifacts, and some replicas of dioramas where they can actually display and set up displays as part of the school program. New restrooms, elevator to the second floor. And this cross-hatched area, excuse me, if you have heard the reference to the yellow box, looking into developing that, that's this area out here. It's a common space. We will never own that. That has to be owned by the city because of the way they still have bonds on that space. We're treating the design of that completely separate from getting the school building open. So the second floor, we're retaining the open stairways that are there. Excuse me. We have to incorporate 2 new enclosed fire stairwells. There are 4 more traditional classrooms up here, and then more common space, which can be used as classrooms and other functions on either side. This is real, the common space is still being, the furniture systems are still being considered for versatility and what we actually need in there, how the school staff wants it to function. That's the basic layout. We're pretty well set with the floor plans, and the architect is proceeding with the detail work. There will be a air handling unit on the roof. Made contact with Heritage Hill. They realize that's going up there. They've asked us to keep it as far back and out of sight as possible, which we can. But it won't be completely invisible.
Was it 240 students in the building?
It's going to hold 360. We've gone up to 90 per grade level. So that is the,
Those are projects that are beginning.
both of those will be open the fall of 18.
Fall of 18.
So shortly, you will see bids coming at certain levels on them, both of them, in the next few months. We have a bid out for demolition work at the museum, demolition and asbestos abatement, and then we will be bidding as we get into spring, construction work on both of them. The other thing that I did want to talk about is the city high school renovation. I've been working with the architect and CM team. You've been pushing very hard to define what we have to do and what we can do there. The original plan, the heating and cooling budget, including improvements, took up more of the budget than we wanted and limited what we could do in the classrooms. So we are working to come up with a more specific and defined heating plan and maximize that we can go into the classrooms and refurbish them, add technology in them. We have a meeting this Thursday. We're getting very close. My goal was to get everything back in, including the science labs and the restrooms. And we'll find out exactly what we can do and what we can't, and then we'll bring it back to the superintendent. We have been able to refine the heating system enough that it's freed up money for other things. And we did look at things like leaving the heating. Well, it's a 50-year-old system. That would, the minute we do that, we'd have to replace it. We looked at what do we do with air? Do we add air? Do we not do air? Are there other options? Just dehumidification. And we're pinning that down, and we've got it defined enough that we can get some better cost estimating, more specific, so that we know what we can do in the classrooms. Really, what we want to do in the classrooms is new lighting, new ceilings, paint the walls, refinish the flooring. The heating system will change the look of the wall with new fin tube. And we want to make sure we have a technology package in each room, which there aren't many there now. Hallways are still a bit of a question of how far we'll be able to go in the hallways. It's important to do the restrooms. So right now, all I can, and I've been sharing with John to share with the groups there, is be a little patient. The more detail we can push on and back and forth, the better of an end product, and the better we can do to maximize our value for our dollars there. That's my goal. If we can maximize and get as much included as possible, that's what I want to do. It's taken a little longer than I really hoped, but I'd rather do it and be thorough and know exactly we've maximized than not. Southwest, we're working with the Habitat team. Right now, the site planner is working on that. So there is not much for us to do at this point until the site plan is complete. Those are the ones that are active. We will start Union High School up sometime spring to summer. And Ottawa is, until we determine the actual programs in there, that's going to determine the design. So that's, the team is being brought back together to finalize what goes into Ottawa, and then we can resurrect that design project.
Okay. Also in the packet is the bond timeline, the draft bond timeline. So I ask that we have this just, and this should not be seen as any promise that things would be started and completed, but that we have a general idea of what the plans are. And I've also asked that we present this and the financial dashboard at the next regular board meeting. So do you guys have any questions about the draft bond timeline that was in the packet? Or how to read it?
Yeah, one thing I want to point out, Dr. Baker, in the bond planning document is we split it up by tranches of bonds. The left side is the first tranche of the bonds we issued a year ago, about 88 million. And those are the projects that we intend to at least begin and in many cases finish with that first round of bonds. The second tranche of the 175 million we will issue sometime spring, summer of 2019. And so the projects you see on the right side of this schedule would be the projects that will be financed from that second tranche of bonds, as I mentioned, we'll issue sometime in first half of 2019 at this point in time. So that's our intent.
Okay. Bond refunding update, is that what you just talked about earlier?
Yeah, on the very last page of your packet, there's just a little summary, and I know the superintendent sent out an email, I believe, end of last week, but it was very successful refunding we did on Wednesday. We'll save the district taxpayers about $5 million over the next 13 years and reduced property taxes, and everything went great. We will actually close on the deal, if you will, so set up the escrow to pay the old bonds off. That'll happen on March 22nd when everything will be completed. The pricing is set as of Wednesday, and so we do know that our true interest costs, you see in the summary there, are 2.86%, replacing bonds that had a yield of about 4.19, and that savings there you see about $5 million. So it was a win-win for all of us, and it was well received in the market, which was really, really good. This is better than they had estimated. The underwriters on Wednesday morning, as we had a phone call, they had put together what they thought would be the pricing based on market conditions, and because the demand was so high, it drove the price down even for us, so it saved us even more money. So it was very, very successful bond refunding. Any other questions on that? Okay.
Okay. And then the sustainability update.
I think it was 2 meetings ago, we noted that we'd received the Energy Star certification for 8 schools. Those are Frost, Brookside, Mulek, Ottawa, Riverside, Sherwood, Union, and West Middle. I did want to show you the plaque that we received. This one is for Mulek. We will be hanging these in each of the buildings in an appropriate location. Kristen did the work on this through consumers. It did not cost us anything. It was funded by consumers, and we are working on a number of other buildings to try and get them certified also. This is really a nice designation. Consumers went through with Energy Star, did a number of analysis to determine if we qualified. This is kind of really a nice reward for those buildings.
Excellent work.
Should we ask that be included in the board update?
Absolutely.
All right, so the 3 things that, other than the action item, I don't know if I need to, because I haven't done this for a while. So can you communicate to the superintendent, and then I guess about anyway, I guess we'll have the treasurer's report and the finance committee update. So we want to have the the new financial dashboard pointed out to the board. We want to have the proposed bond plan timeline. And then also, we would like a mention of the sustainability and this good news here. So those 3 items. So then hopefully I remember that. So.
Got it.
Any other comments, questions for us before we adjourn? All right, thanks a lot.